Hello, welcome back to the Breaking News Update. My name is Jimmy Boyd, and you are watching Boyd News. I want to thank you so much for tuning in today. I've got a breaking news report coming out for the United States, and we're going to talk about the Trump administration in the White House and also the U.S. State Department. Huge report just breaking today on your screen. White House proposes big budget cuts to State Department affecting NATO and the UN, which is the United Nations. The Trump admin is reportedly proposing to slash the State Department budget by nearly half in a move that could drastically reduce U.S. international spending and end its funding for NATO and the UN. Okay, so very big report today. So President Trump is planning a 48% cut to the State Department budget. And right now, the funding could be slashed by 27 billion down to 28.4 billion. And I think right now the U.S. State Department is spending around 55 billion per year. So the UN, NATO, and 20 plus international bodies would lose all U.S. support. Okay, so we're talking a lot of international agencies that could be affected by this. And we know the Trump administration has been working towards putting out lots of budget cuts right now, even within the military over the next 5 years. I believe they're going to be drastically reducing spending. We know the U.S. needs to stop spending so much right now anyway. I mean, we're well over, I think, 37 trillion or so last time I checked in debt. So right now, the U.S. is trying to do whatever they can to cut spending, but this is directly going to affect NATO, which is mostly what we're going to talk about here because this relates to Ukraine. And is this going to cause some sort of instability within NATO? You guys can let me know what you think, but it looks like right now the White House is mulling this idea or coming out with a proposal to try to cut the U.S. State Department, their budget, and also will directly affect NATO and the UN. Okay, so we'll jump on over to a mainstream news article here from the Kiev Independent. I'll give you guys some information about this real quick, and then we'll go over some of the numbers on how much money is going to be cut within the State Department. So it says here, White House reportedly seeks to defund NATO, UN, in State Department cuts. This is coming out today, April 15th, 2025. And it says right here, U.S. President Donald Trump's White House is proposing dramatic cuts to the U.S. State Department's budget, including halting nearly all of the department's funding to NATO, the UN, and over 20 other international organizations, the Washington Post reported on April 14th, citing an internal draft document. Okay, we'll go over exactly how much NATO would be defunded and the UN as well. The proposed cuts for the next fiscal year would reportedly leave 28.4 billion for all State Department activities, a 48% reduction from the 2025 budget approved by Congress. The plan would preserve only minimal support for a handful of agencies such as the International Atomic Energy Agency and the International Civil Aviation Organization. According to Politico, funding for contributions to international organizations, presumably including UN institutions, would be slashed from 1.5 billion to 169 million. Although the proposal would require congressional approval, the cuts align with broader White House efforts to slash federal spending. On March 10th, the Trump administration announced the termination of 83% of the foreign aid contracts of the U.S. Agency for International Development, which is USAID. The cuts have broad implications for humanitarian efforts, particularly in Ukraine, where USAID has provided $2.6 billion in humanitarian aid, $5 billion in development assistance, and over $30 billion in direct budget support since Russia's full-scale invasion began. Trump has long expressed hostility towards NATO, repeatedly accusing European allies of underfunding the alliance and threatening to allow Russia to attack non-compliant members. The proposal to eliminate NATO funding appears to escalate that stance into formal policy. Before being appointed under Trump, Secretary of State Marco Rubio had consistently defended NATO. In 2023, Rubio co-sponsored bipartisan legislation requiring congressional approval before any president could unilaterally withdraw the U.S. from the alliance. Some members of Trump's circle, including billionaire and advisor Elon Musk, called for the U.S. to exit NATO, and the U.S. is broadly expected to withdraw some troops from the alliance's eastern flank. As Europe faces growing Russian aggression and war rages in Ukraine, the proposed withdrawal of U.S. support for NATO and the UN could drastically reshape the West's security architecture and strain Washington's credibility as a global leader. Okay, so this is a very big news update today. And regarding NATO, I mean, we've already been hearing that the U.S. might start pulling a lot of their troops from the eastern flank closer to Russia, and also, if they're going to be defunding NATO, that's directly going to affect the alliance. And could it cause the alliance to potentially fall apart in the future? You guys can let me know what you think of that down below. But we're going to jump on over to X real quick as well, and I'm going to show you guys a report over here that talks about the actual amount of funding that would be cut, especially in regards to NATO. So we have a report here from Clash Report on X. Trump proposes slashing State Department. The Trump administration plans to cut the State Department and U.S. aid budget nearly in half, from $55 billion to $28.4 billion, according to an internal memo reviewed by the Washington Post. The proposal includes 54% cut to humanitarian aid, 55% cut to global health funding. Here's NATO's part right here, nearly 90% cut to international organization support, including defunding the UN and NATO. Okay, so 90% support for NATO and the UN would be cut. Complete elimination of peacekeeping mission funding, citing recent mission failures. Okay, and here's the original report right here that says Trump plans would slash State Department funding by nearly half, the memo says. An internal document reviewed by the Post targets spending on humanitarian assistance, global health, and international organizations such as the United Nations and NATO. Okay, so again, guys, huge report today coming out that the U.S. might be planning on doing this. Now, it's not completely confirmed, and we'll have to see if Congress jumps on board with this as well. But a very big cut to the U.S. State Department, and again, we know the U.S. is working on slashing lots of federal funding right now. That's a big goal for Donald Trump. And maybe it'll help the U.S. out in the future. Maybe it won't. We'll have to see how things play out. But I just wanted to share these details with you guys and let you know how it will directly affect NATO. And could that affect Ukraine in the future as well? Because NATO supports Ukraine directly also. Okay, so let me know what you think about all these details down in the comment section. That's going to be it for today's update. If you got something out of this, please smash that like button. Also, if you enjoy my content, please consider subscribing down below. Hit the notification bell. That way YouTube can notify you. And with that, hope you all have a great day. Everybody take care and God bless. And we'll see you in the next one.